All right. Welcome back to the Resonant State, the world's most exciting podcast. And tonight we are joined by William Ramsey of William Ramsey Investigates, Sean McCann of Wake the Dead, Brett of PsyOp Cinema, who's going to be the prime presenter today. And we're going to be examining a relatively obscure Frank Sinatra film called Suddenly. And we will be touching on a variety of connected topics such as Charlie Kirk assassination, JFK assassination, Frank Sinatra's mob ties, etc. So, thank you all for joining us this fine evening here in the United States of America. And without further ado, I don't know if you want to start or Brett, you want to just dive in.
I just wanted to say this is part 18 of the series, and it started long ago, and I'm glad that we're able to, that Brett was listening, and he contacted us, and he said, this information that I have found and been studying is worthy of this series, and we are glad to have Brett. He's a good friend of the show, all of our shows, actually. We've all been together on other endeavors, and we're very glad to have you back again, Brett. Thank you for coming.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I listened to some past installments of your Manchurian Candidate series, and of course, I did an episode with William on our PsyOp Cinema series on Manchurian Candidate. So I thought I would share the fruits, I guess, of a Patreon episode I did on our PsyOp Cinema series on the 1954 film Suddenly. That Hans introduced. But first, I wanted to say, because I didn't just wait till the end, but I have to say that, I want to thank Hans as well for contributing an article on FM radio to Thomas and I's Cultural Engineering Studies Research Anthology, Volume 3, which just came out. This is live, right?
Yeah, so we're live.
Yesterday, the day before yesterday, a couple of days ago. So
I just want to say, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just received that in the mail. It is premium quality, not just because my article's in there, but it's really an excellent top of the line journal. And I don't think there's anything like it. And it certainly is a level up from most academic publications, but it's just a beautiful magazine, and it's really worth it. So please support this journal, and help get this stuff out of the tinfoil hat basement into the mainstream, because we are at a time in history where this is quite essential. So excellent work, Brett, I have to say.
Yeah, congrats, guys. Congrats on all the stuff, all the work. There's 2 articles you can see right here online. It's decoding-culture.com. Volume 3, so 2 and 1. I've done a lot of shows on the other authors, so I'll have to have hands on to talk about this specifically.
Yeah,
I've interviewed Horsley like 6 times, so you can check all those out. And also, this series, the Manchurian Candidate series, started before the Charlie Kirk assassination. It started in August of 2025, so it's been ongoing. We've had some great guests on there also, including Robert Frederick was our last one, which we stopped because the Epstein files came out. So this will be a follow-on kind of with a gap in it. So just to give people some housekeeping stuff. Sorry, Brett.
No, yeah, Hans is one of the free ones here too. That's out too. So I mean, we hope you'll support us by buying one. But you can read Hans's great article on the website now. It's already out, and there'll be like a complete digital version eventually on the website. But anyway, yeah, I mean that transitions into what we're doing now, because I mean this is cultural engineering as well. There's Suddenly, right, 1954. So this is just immediately what pops out, right, is that you got Frank Sinatra. There it is. Frank Sinatra is in a movie some 10 years before the Kennedy assassination. Sinatra, who's notoriously very mobbed up and is a important point of contact between the mob and Hollywood, in fact, and the White House, actually, friend of JFK's, is in this movie where he plays a mob hitman hired by, we know not exactly who, somebody within the deep state, so to speak, to whack a president. And then there is a legend, which is given mainstream credence out there, but which I will argue is, if speaking of how long we have to discuss, it's not in fact true, that Lee Harvey Oswald watched this movie about a month or so, a couple weeks maybe plus, before he assassinated. This comes out of the Warren Commission. It's a story that is amplified by these CIA-connected phony journalists like Priscilla McMillan, and it's then used by phony psyopers like Vincent Bugliosi to amplify the whole copycat thesis sort of thing, and in a way, not in the way it's used to explain the Hinckley shooting of Reagan and stuff, but in a kind of inchoate sort of early form of that, right? To basically reinforce the lone gunman theory, and not just basically. That's precisely what Bugliosi will say if we have time to read from his book and stuff like that. So there's this definite psyop around this, which involves creating this profile of the lone nut assassin in an earlier form, right? It's in this transitional form, but it's clearly there. It's used in the historical record, and why they create this made up story around him watching this, you can judge. I think I have the answer. It fits into some wider research we've done in psyop cinema around the Joker cycle and the creation of the sort of profile of the lone nut political assassin, things like Taxi Driver and other movies and popular media that are connected to this. So it's a very tangled but interesting web. So, and I know, and all of you, I figured, are people that have a lot of reflections on that. If we don't get to everything, I'd encourage people to check out our Patreon page. I did about an hour and a half of a pretty rapid fire presentation on Suddenly, so I had a lot to say about it.
Real quick, the modern day assassin, well, the incel shooter that put on a costume like he's the Joker, James Holmes, went to go to the Dark Knight opening, whatever theater in Aurora, Colorado. And that was like, he was dressed as the movie. He was there attacking the moviegoers. And the whole idea was he was like thinking like he was in a trance, like he was in the movie, like he thought that he was being a vigilante like the Joker. And so like all of the Taxi Driver stuff kind of came full circle and it's like been concressed into this like real thing, but it kind of started here with this Suddenly the rumor that Frank Sinatra pulled it from the theaters and all that, right?
Yeah, and one thing about James Holmes, though, of course, is he was highly intelligent, so almost like genius level IQ, considered to be very personable, a great guy. This was, this has been, they were denying it. Right? His university advisor was working on types of programming people to do things without their will, and then James Holmes was this graduate student became the, became the special teacher's pet. I mean, the guy was programmed. He was a totally normal guy. And in fact, considered an exceptional student and an exceptional person in terms of being a leader, highly intelligent. So he didn't have all these weird sort of dissociative, hiding in the basement type of qualities. But
that's the myth that they gave us, though. And
absolutely,
when they put him in front of people, he was so doped up. He looked like he was on ketamine, just like blah, So like that, and I'm just saying, like, with the question I was going with is the myth that they give us, because this myth, I mean, this idea that he pulled it from theaters, that's not true, right, Brett?
Holmes said that
Frank Sinatra pulled Suddenly from theaters. That's not true.
I had
right?
my mind working on a lot of the Joker cycle stuff. That's such a central archetype in all of this. But and the psyops around what we call spectacular crime and the media feedback loop has come to revolve around the figure of the Joker, which itself is related to Taxi Driver and King of Comedy and these Scorsese films. So that's something we've done so much work on. But so there's a myth. It's a parallel myth with something that we discussed with William in our Manchurian Candidate episode, that Sinatra had Manchurian Candidate pulled from circulation. This seems not to have been true. It did get maybe less television time than you might expect, but it got television time, and there really is no evidence that Sinatra tried to get rid of it. And then with Suddenly too, there's this, I call it a legend, but it's not a conspiracy theory because it's a story that has no evidence that mainstream sources push. So we call it a legend, I guess. You know, it's in biographies of Sinatra, it's in media guides and stuff like this, not really questioned very often, that Sinatra in one way or another had suddenly pulled from circulation because it was in bad taste after his friend JFK's murder. And this is not true. He didn't have now in the case of Manchurian Candidate, he had distribution rights at least by the early 70s, although it before and after then it was on television, so he never pulled it really. So with Suddenly, he never had distribution rights, so it's not made up. Now, I couldn't confirm this, but there was somebody that said when Frank Sinatra Jr. presented on TCM, he pointed out, yeah, I know he never really did. They didn't have distribution rights, but he wrote some sort of angry letter to a TV station. But at any rate, you find, God, in Bugliosi, and that's another can of worms, but Bugliosi uses this to sort of push his lone gunman, because Bugliosi wrote this like 1,600 page, this ridiculous book trying to debunk JFK theories called, what is it called? Recovering History or something.
It was like Case Closed or something like this is the final analysis.
That may be another book that he wrote, but the good stuff, by the way, is buried in these like footnotes that they're all in a CD-ROM, and there's like, yeah, you just see how dishonest he is when you really look deeply into whatever he's doing, because I mean that was what Tom O'Neill kind of exposed with Chaos, and just how willfully, unbelievably, skillfully dishonest Bugliosi was, you know. And I found that, you know, this is real just when you start looking into little bits of his interactions with other authors that he quotes and stuff. Like, for example, this guy, John Logan, who wrote this book called Oswald's Trigger Films about this very subject, about what movies Oswald watched. And he was triggered by them and the way Bugliosi says it. And that guy, by the way, who's only got like 2 books credited to his name, is arguing for what he calls the lone gunman theory via the sort of limited copycat theory, that Oswald got some motivation, this unstable, young, impressionable guy just organically got some motivation from watching 2 movies that he watched. Okay, so Marina says that he watched, Marina agreed that he watched Suddenly when she's questioned by the Warren Commission, and the Secret Service, she says, but I think they cooked that up. But she seems to be more certain that he watched a movie that actually did air a month before the assassination in that evening, and that was We Were Strangers, which is this John Huston directed, obvious piece of like red communist propaganda that even if you look at the Wikipedia page on it, it's like denounced by the Hollywood Reporter as like obvious Soviet propaganda by Huston. It's about like but this is pre-Castro, and it's about it's like a glorification, a kind of leftist, you know, glorification of the early 30s rebellion against Machado that was like taken out of theaters after a couple of weeks because it was obviously spotted as like communist propaganda, and it has all of these people that are were involved in like being blacklisted, or you know, Garfield, for example, who by the way, it's so funny because the guy who's like the secret agent who's like running the rebellion, the assassination attempt. So it's like Castro, it's like prefiguring the Castro stuff. Okay. The guy who's running it is actually Garfield, is played by Garfield as a Hollywood like talent agent who's actually a secret agent. And so anyway, this movie is like tied up with all of this stuff. So Oswald supposedly watches those 2 movies back to back, but they don't want to talk about the other movie.
The other movie was We Were Strangers.
We Were Strangers, because Oswald comments to Marina, this is in the Warren Commission testimony, that like he commented that basically that's not how they do it anymore. As if, doesn't that clearly show that he knows how they run assassinations against leaders now in Cuba, because that's what in fact he was involved in, because he was part of that clandestine world and system, and that's like what the kind of basic claim of conspiracists on the J has been all along. And so it's that clear too. They want to that's another thing, they want to distract onto this other movie that I don't think he watched. I think that's why they made up that he watched it, because look, in the TV schedules, this is what Bugliosi has to agree, and it's in Loken's book. It's that despite what the Warren Commission testimony says and was in the Secret Service report, and in fact it's in a Secret Service report, that they couldn't verify that he watched this, that because it's not in the TV schedules. Only We Were Strangers, he never watched this. So they're trying to create this legend of the like media feedback loop between that. I don't think he ever watched this movie, may or may not have watched Manchurian Candidate. That was a very popular movie. So anyway, yeah, so I don't want to not give you guys a chance to try. It goes on and on, this like use of this legend and the authors using it, and I mean that's part of what I investigated in this this research report that I called it.
Yeah, I just want to say that that's an important, analytical point, is that these cultural archetypes create sort of essentialisms, right? So they create basically cognitive boxes, or you could say fields, container fields. Oh, this guy's a lone gunman, and then you get this feedback loop while they're referencing the movies, which further reinforces that archetype. And so you're creating things that will actually be basically unconscious categories of perception primarily. Like once it gets infused like that, it's very easy just to push someone right into that space. Oh, here's the lone gunman. And another thing is that having the stuff that's pulled, stuff that's taken down, stuff that's controversial. You see a lot in the disclosure movement, which is, I would have to say, kind of a pretty large psyop. But you have stuff, suppressed report, leaked report, this guy was jailed. And there's a lot of these things too. So you have those the counter movements and counter narratives, but it really it's a feedback cycle where the media plays into the actual people. And again, then once you get the person in that box, you don't examine them. And I'm wondering if this also ties into the forthcoming serial killer phenomena that starts, kind of the late 60s, if this is also linked in a similar type of archetypal programming.
Yeah, that's a great point, Hans. This whole programming, unless we forget, Hinckley was obsessed with Taxi Driver and wanted to become Travis Bickle, and then before him, Arthur Bremer watched A Clockwork Orange and watched it literally like a week before, according to his diaries, which are of questionable authorship, alleged to be written actually by E. Howard Hunt. But these things keep going on, these archetypes, and then they're promoted in the media, not just as a lone gunman, but like a crazy, unbalanced, unstable
also the book there, Catcher in the Rye, with the that too is a piece of art. It's not a movie, but it ties together. Oh, he's crazy, he's obsessed with this piece of art that's like driving his mind.
Holden Caulfield. So you see these archetypes throughout the entire culture, which is started from Suddenly to the guy from Manchurian Candidate to Alex DeLarge to Travis Bickle, Holden Caulfield.
So yeah,
Holden Caulfield's another incel, just like Travis and the rest.
Yeah, so I think that the development of the whole incel thing and the treatment of these kinds of feedback loop themes in media at this particular time, right? I mean, that speaks to the fact that I think all like Taxi Driver, I think Suddenly, all this stuff, it's under the rubric of psychological warfare. I can't remember which one we pointed out that in some of the techniques and Suddenly, like the speaking directly into the camera and stuff like that, we're going to see just some of the cues and some of the techniques here are really almost telltale signs of some kind of weird psychological warfare. And so this is just bizarre, right? Given Sinatra's level of mob connections, his direct associations with people directly implicated around the JFK murder, Giancana and Roselli. I mean, sus is just not the word for it, right? This just begs some kind of investigation. I brought up, I don't know if you all had a chance to watch them, if we'll have a chance to reference them a little bit, but I mean, some other movies that I think are importantly related are like Johnny Cool, directed by Peter Lawford, who's this extremely important person who was married to Patricia Kennedy, who's friends with Sinatra, who hosts all these sex parties where Marilyn Monroe is hanging out, who himself is the son of a British general. And this is the sort of milieu in which all of these really seminal events in American politics are happening at this time.
I don't know if I said it in an email. We didn't say it on the show yet, but I wanted to talk about the looking directly in the camera, because that's not done in movies. They don't do that. It's like it's rarely done in still photographs. I mean, you'll see, like, when people are doing art, the person's face is covered up, not looking, because like when the person in the image is looking at you, it creates like an uncomfortable tension. Like you're on the spot, like, you're not allowed to like if there's like a female body or whatever, she's looking at you, you can't move your eyes away to look at her, luscious parts, because she's watching you, like watching what you do and how you respond. And plus, so this guy is old Blue Eyes. He's noted for his eyes. And when he's looking, and blue eyes on black and white film are very different. Dark eyes just look like a black hole, but a blue eye, you can see the iris and you can see the edge of the outer ring. And he stares into the camera twice, not just one, like multiple times. And as he does it, he like walks towards the camera and he's speaking in like a hypnotic tone, like talking about how he loves killing and that's how he gets respect and all this, I mean, I think that's what he was saying at the time, but the direct confrontation with the audience is something that was not seen until that time. It was kind of groundbreaking with this looking at the camera thing.
Yeah, and well, the camera, I was in a movie, and so the director kept getting on me. It's a Hallmark movie. Anybody can watch it. It's called Country Christmas Album. But director said, don't look in the camera barrel. Like I got so much.
They hate that.
But music videos, you look right in the camera barrel, right? So
Right.
that's but that's obviously different. So,
But
it
sorry.
removes the illusion of the cinema, because the cinema creates a reality. As soon as that camera becomes, they're just filming this off a camera, that whole dream state gets interrupted, right? It gets interrupted.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah. Brett, do you have any comments, or William? Sorry, guys.
There is a strange connection to the Manchurian Candidate, because this one guy, Freeze, who was, I think, one of the three kind of crooks who were involved in trying to kill the president, was the narrator for the Manchurian Candidate. So that guy who does the intro and talking and setting up Shaw in his background was in Suddenly. He died in that shootout, if you remember.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can find that speech that he gives about being God, right? About
It's at the end, yeah.
It's about
3/4. It's yeah. I can help. Maybe if
I had a timestamp on it. I think
I can help you find it.
But that's really key. So I mean, it's the this is in a way more. I mean, in a couple of ways, it's more important than Manchurian Candidate in terms of your cinematic indexes with the JFK assassination, because not only did supposedly, or is this legend that Oswald watched it, but I mean, it deals more directly with the psychology of the shooter. Now, of course, in Manchurian Candidate, it's very telling that he's brainwashed. Okay. Here, there's a sort of softer kind of brainwashing that's going to be indicated. I mean, he literally, did you guys watch the movie, right? He gives that speech to her at one point in the kitchen, right? About using the sort of language that they what is he? I can't remember exactly what he says, right? But how pity was taken out of him, and he was
It was taken
but-
out of me by experts.
Says
So
that
literally
two,
said
three
that.
times.
Yeah.
Taken out of me by
Experts, right.
experts. He brings that up, experts.
And he's so, and of course it's very important, right, that he fits what we call the profile, right? So he's the military thing, right? So he's ex-military, and he was actually discharged, right, because he was some kind of psycho-sadistic killer. And so, this is with so many of these people, right? We get this becomes part of the profile. The being a sort of nobody, right? Being a clown, right? As we analyzed in our discussion of the Joker movie, right? The way they use this sort of trope of the Joker and the clown is the everyman now, is the way that this sort of figure now has become the everyman figure of society, the loser. And so that's part of this archetype that's being developed here of this character. He's a loser, and he gets a feeling of power out of like now being able to kill, and he gets this feeling. But where it comes to those sort of these declarations of feeling like God, so that to me is what really keys into this, what's at the heart of this Joker archetype, as I'm calling it, whatever you want to call it, this cultural archetype that's instantiated itself in the figure of this like Batman Joker figure, and it's this dark self, and it's this desire to sort of, basically deify sort of psychosis and violence and evil, and this sort of dark, this sort of mystical perversion, I think, that's at the heart of the Hollywood occult, and really of transhumanism, quite frankly, and of a whole bunch of phenomena, and I just think it's sort of key to this whole mass mind control complex and so on. So I think it's so, in this movie, it's so clearly about his psychology, and I think that's the sort of deepest layer of it. He begins by saying, he's motivated by money and he doesn't care, and then actually the Sterling Hayden, someone we can talk about, who was OSS and then was investigated as being a communist and is an interesting figure himself, but he plays the sheriff who's sort of like psychoanalyzing the Sinatra character and rightly perceives that there's something like he's not being honest with himself, like, come on, you're killing the president, this is dangerous, clearly you've got some kind of deeper motivation. And it comes out more and more that he is really obsessed with of killing of the great man sort of thing, and he feels he's small and he's going to be great, and then it goes right, and then it's sort of hinting at where it's going to go at the end, but they're having to kind of give this to audiences in the 50s in a different way. They're not like at the sort of Travis Bickle Taxi Driver level where people can believe in this sort of like, the way that like every 70s movie has got some completely over the top God's telling him to kill people, wacko person. That's not the 50s audience, isn't quite ready to take that as a motivation, but it's movies like this that are nudging them in that direction,
The God thing relates to having a gun too, and they don't talk like that in movies nowadays for sure. But the child, so there's like Sterling Hayden is the sheriff, and he is sweet on a widow whose husband died in the war, and she hates guns, and the kid her son wants a gun for a toy, and the sheriff goes and buys it for him even though he knows the mom doesn't want him to have it. And then in the end, Frank Sinatra is talking about having a gun makes you a god, and if that kid right there had a gun, he'd be the god and I'd be the clown. And in the end, it turns that, they swap the gun out, and it's a neat story how it unfolds. But the idea of the gun in a good guy's hand saves the day. When the other guy, they got this rifle. I mean, the murderer guy, there's no money anymore, and there's no even reason to shoot, and he still wants to shoot. It's like so important, wants to shoot. So I think that the idea of the gun being power, and that like a godlike power of life and death, that was the main crux of that speech, I think. And giving crazy people watching, like lone gunmen, incels that are all watching, like, oh, if I could just have a gun, I mean, we have even nowadays with the trans shooter of the Nashville school shooting. She wrote in her diary about how she wanted to be famous like the Klebold and the other one from Columbine, and she wanted to shoot kids because that's really gets the attention, like, so it's that. And she was certainly an incel crazy,
Yeah,
So
Harrison Klebold, is that what it was? Those two?
Yeah, Dylan Harrison. Yeah, Klebold. Yeah, right.
It's interesting you say that because there's part in here where he gives that speech where he's no longer a face in the crowd. So it's not just the power of the gun as God, but also he's not going to be an anonymous nobody anymore.
Right, like Natural Born Killers, like he becomes famous once he.
Yeah,
They call him that phrase is in the film. They're literally, like, I can bring it up. They literally call himself a born killer. 1 hour and 2 minutes.
But the crowd thing, there's another. He brings that up several times. At one point, he said, "I saw the crowd, and then everybody in the crowd had my face." So that was a weird one, right? He said, "Everybody in the crowd has my face."
Malkovich.
Yeah. But so that's the crowd thing. I think is also an important archetype. Well, Brett's going to be the master on this, but yeah, there's some. I mean, on the surface, it kind of just goes down easy. There's not a lot of direct stuff, but I think some of these subtle symbolic layers are very important.
The crowd having everybody having that face, it reminds me of the archetype of the Guy Fawkes mask with the V for Vendetta thing that put a clown face on the whole crowd. Anyway, sorry, Brett, we keep talking too much.
Oh no. I mean, the other thing to talk about is why like Sinatra is so personally drawn to this role. It's interesting. He just won an Academy Award for From Here to Eternity, which is a role that by all accounts he got because Johnny Roselli why would Johnny Roselli have to strong arm, what's his name, Cohn, the head of Columbia, his friend? I mean, it was just through his mafia connections in one way or another, like whatever the story is, like that's how Sinatra got that role. And taking this like role and kind of not like an independent movie, if not a B movie, that he's playing this like psychopathic killer, the sort of like rarely psychopathic character of the era, doesn't seem to be necessarily great for his career as he's still trying to become like legitimately taken as not just a singer or one hit wonder actor and like a real actor. But if you look into Sinatra, as I did, I mean, apart from the fact that if you've read that sort of monarch literature stuff we were talking about, that is it Sue Ford that accuses him of being some kind of sort of brutal enforcer and in the clandestine world. But I mean, in a even more documented sense, like you have all these stories, and I don't know what you think of Mike Rothmiller. Seems like sort of a limited hangout, his Frank Sinatra and the mafia murders, but that Sinatra just had a habit of going around and getting drunk and basically threatening anybody who crossed him, that he would have Sam Giancana kill them. And like the story that they had to like get the Chicago mafia had to like move some Las Vegas pit boss somewhere else because Sinatra had to believe that they killed him, and that he just went around blustering like this. That apparently he was quite violent. So like the fact that he was so drawn to this role, I think, is interesting in itself. But I mean, just the layers of overlap between what's being, part of the theme here is this sort of like overlap between media and real life, and that's built into the casting and the production of so many of these movies, where these Rat Pack people, Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. and Peter Lawford, we should talk about, are making these movies that portray the mob not by name, or they're portraying underworld activities and things that they in fact are involved in. This is interesting phenomenon. I mean, that's sort of what I research, is what this is telling us, right? The when these people that are sort of doing the deep state stuff are portraying it, like, what does that tell us about it, and why?
Right.
Um,
Sammy Davis Jr. was in Johnny Cool too, right?
He
was the
he wasn't in
one-eyed-
it. He sang the song, and the song.
He was the
interesting.
guy who was throwing the dice in.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. He does have the role. Excuse me. And he
Yeah.
sings the song and the song's interesting because at the beginning, it's like the song is all about, has those mind control tropes of a puppet being controlled, and it's showing you, Johnny's face being shattered, and then you find out that it's very chilling, that he's obviously, I don't know what you thought of that movie if you watched it, but he's obviously the whole movie again is about sort of like switching identities and the fluidity of identity, and how the underworld can take these figures and make them representatives of other things. And I think clearly at the end, they're bringing him to be like, they have him in a straitjacket, and they're like, this is like MK Ultra type of stuff. Am I am I reading too much into that to see that at the end? Like, that seemed obvious to me, that like that's alluding to that sort of stuff, especially given that, again, the wider context of the plot is Operation Gladio, and
Right. He was from Italy, right?
Well, he's based on he's based on an actual person. He's called Giordano, right? And it's like Giuliano is the. I'm trying to look it up here in my notes, but I think it's Giuliano. Was the Salvatore Giuliano, who cooperated directly with the CIA as part of Operation Gladio, which is the CIA, NATO, Freemasonic, P2 Lodge, false flag assassination, psychological warfare. Later comes to a theater near you.
Right.
Began in Italy.
Came to Dallas in '63, right?
Right. Exactly. All of it spilling out of Gladio type of stuff. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And so the people around Kennedy, Lawford, is making this movie showing Gladio stuff. Johnny Cool, right? Like what? Interesting.
Right.
All right.
Yeah. And so this is all, I mean, there's always that idea of the revelation of the method. And when they make these movies, they can share these ideas amongst each other more easily. And since they have full control over the film, they fully control the archetype that they're creating. It's highly designed. And by the time we get to the 2000s and 2010s and 20s, we get people dressing up as the Joker, and it's a concrete idea, like I was saying before. It's really interesting to see the steps along the way, and Natural Born Killers and Taxi Driver and these other movies are integral to this succession series of tropes. Now it's just a thing. Like school shootings is just a thing. Like Hans tells us every time we hear like about, oh yeah, there's been this many mass killings since Friday. It's like, holy crap. It's become normal.
And that is a tradition. So let me just update everybody real quick.
Here we go.
We are up to 136 mass shootings so far in 2026. 1.25 per day, 166 killed, 501 wounded. And so just today we had 3 mass shootings. About 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yesterday. So lots of mass shootings. And that, again, that's a lot. And these are not, none of these get mainstream attention, which is quite fascinating. And what's wild is that you look at the data, it's usually, sometimes it's one every like 5 years, right? And then it just hits, and it's like, it just goes up to like, 200, 300, 400 a year. So it's kind of a wild thing where, again, you have, after Columbine, there was not another shooting. And again, these mass shootings are, one crazy gunmen or whatever. But there were no shootings for like 4 or 5 years, and then it just spiked. I believe it was 2014. It went from like 0 to like, I think that was like 200 or 300 that year. So it's an interesting phenomenon. It's like, how does it go for decades being one every 2 to 3 years to we already have 136 so far in 2026,
Well, Trump's in office. Must be Trump's fault. Somehow, but think about it. Like, really, some people, like some bands, don't release albums until somebody they don't like is in office, and then they release the protest album. And when Obama's in office, everything cools down. But Obama was crying on TV for the Bandy Sook, whatever so like he was doing, so there was some mass shootings for sure when Obama was in 16, right? Too also, or no, 16 was Trump. Obama was there for the 14. It was
Well, actually, so 2012 is 0. 2013 is 339 mass shootings, and from that point on, so literally, like I said, there was.
That's right when Obama got in. That's crazy.
2013, 2014, 325, 2015,
and
371,
they're
481,
gun laws.
481 in 2016, 434, 2017, 430 in 2018, 505 mass shootings in 2019, 716 mass shootings in 2020. 716, over 2 per day. And I think that's and 830 in 2021, and then 766 2022, and then 759 2023. Now we go down 576 2024, and last year was only 488. But look at that again. We're looking at mass shootings. Going back to the what was that the college in West Coast or whatever, like one of the first ones. I mean, once every 5 years to suddenly 2013, and it's almost 1,000 a year, man. It's a pretty interesting statistical anomaly for sure.
Seems like it's right on track for those, globalist eugenicists that want to cull the population. Anyway,
the Black Awakening.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
One of the interesting thing, I don't know if Brett wants to chime in on this, but they do compare him. He compares himself to other assassination victims in the past. He has that one kind of thing. Let me see if I can get this to play.
Good job, that's all. Identifying us is not involved. By 7 o'clock tonight, we'll be out of the country and you'll never see us again.
Tell him, Todd, tell him.
Never mind, lady. We'll just assume that they knew he was coming up here. So that if somebody else comes up to check on him, you can tell him the sheriff and his friend were here, but they had to go someplace else. That's all.
I have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, Pidge. Little punk kid.
Go with him, boss.
Go, Pidge. Was his nickname Pigeon or
I
something?
don't need any help.
Come on.
This is the guy who's
Table screwed down.
This is the guy who's the narrator for the Manchurian Candidate. That's the guy. You can hear his voice once you listen to him talk.
Get the tripod up there, drill a hole in each leg, bolt the tripod to the table, put it center in front of the window. I thought I told you to sit down.
Just stretching my legs. You're a very careful man.
That's right.
Planned on everything, huh?
Sheriff, the first man they shoot to the moon in a rocket will take pains, too.
So,
because that's never been done
you've
before.
got Hayden
Neither is this.
and Sinatra both investigated. Sinatra investigated not only for his mob ties by the FBI, but for his communist association. So that's something we can talk about in a moment. But also Sinatra reached out. I mean, this is in declassified stuff. Who knows we don't know about, but he reached out to the CIA. Basically, he wanted protection because he thought the mob was going to kill him. Basically, because he couldn't keep his mouth shut about being in the mob all the time. Actually, that's what it shows. And they didn't, but I mean, like became paranoid that they were, and that is, but I think someone mentioned in the comments about The Godfather. And yes, supposedly inside sources have confirmed that is supposed to be Sinatra being portrayed. I too am unimpressed by him as any kind of an actor, and he's a very strange looking guy. I don't know, I could never understand his career. I'm not a song and dance sort of person, but I was never really a fan of Sinatra. He's but in this one he's yeah, it's sort of, I honestly, it's like sort of disturbing. It's almost like it's too much like his real, I mean, I'm just speculating, but it's just too much like his real personality, kind of like the way he is in this
In his
movie.
casual life, this is him being pictured at the Fontainebleau. He looks like a mobster, like he's followed around with guys wearing shades. It's huge guys and stuff. So it didn't help. Like his personal life didn't help. I mean, the rumors were always there, right?
If you spilled something on him, he threatened to have you killed. Like that was kind of like how he was. Yeah.
Yeah, and he punched past his weight. I mean, you can see how big Hayden is right here, but like, I don't think he's over like 120, 140 pounds. But this is an interesting speech. This is where he talks about like comparing himself to Wilkes Booth.
Haven't got time to worry. I just make my plans and carry them out.
That's what John Wilkes Booth thought, too.
Booth? I'm no actor. Busted my leg on a stage so I can yell down with the tyrants. If Booth wasn't such a ham, he might have made it. He got pretty far at that, though.
The guy who killed Garfield didn't make it either.
Him? He didn't plan anything. Just took a lucky shot, strictly left-handed, just like McKinley.
And Zangara got the cheer for his try at Roosevelt.
He had to try it in a crowd. I hate crowds.
So nobody ever made it.
Up till here. I'm just a guy making a living. And I think you've stretched long enough, as you were.
I gotta find that part in here where he's talking about
It's after
Talking about the
Pidge
crowd.
trades the guns, and he's talking about how if the kid had the gun, where the kid could have the gun, it's right there on the table, and it's like a tense moment. So it's after where Pidge goes in there.
But people can see here, it's very much about, the movie's very much about the psychology of the spectacular killer, as we would call it. Like, so the person who assassinates the public figure, and he admits at some point, grudgingly, that he's driven by infamy in some way, which is a rare sort of motive at that time. He fronts that it's about money or whatever, but then he's like, you know, there's a certain immortality that comes from taking down someone like the president. Comes out in the course of the dialogue with the Sterling Hayden character. Yeah.
I think we might have found it here, William. The moment where
Okay, I'll play it.
I think this is the speech.
Do we have to talk about it? Why don't you shut up?
No guts.
Nerves. That's all that gets on my nerves.
Now, why would I want to get myself killed?
Because it's 5 minutes to 5, and a shot might bring those state troopers storming all over the joint before the president arrives. But, Sheriff, I can put you away in 2 seconds by twisting your arm again. That way is no noise. So don't go winning any post-mortem medals.
I wouldn't enjoy winning a post-mortem medal any more than you're going to enjoy that post-mortem money.
What'd you say? What'd he say?
I said nobody ever made it. And you won't either.
You don't think so?
So you got a plane. You'll never reach it ahead of the police. And if you do, you'll never make it to the border. You ever hear of the jet fighter? You know how many airstrips there are between here and the border?
You know, a fella could get an education just listening to this guy?
But maybe he's right, Johnny.
Look, you said half the money had already been paid. A smart guy would hit the road right now. Fly out of here. Skip the president. Spend the money in South America. Alive.
He's right, Johnny. Why take the risk? We can lamb now. We can make it. We don't have to fool with this thing. It's too big, Johnny. There's something wrong with it.
Chicken.
Chicken? All right, they'll call it chicken. Who wants to be rich and dead? They'll get us. They never missed yet, Johnny. The guy's right. You've got to loot. Let's take off and get out of here for good. Once we're across the border...
Taste those craps.
Benny wasn't chicken. They didn't waste any time on him. I tell you, we haven't got a chance.
Turn it off, Bart. You're embarrassing me in front of the sheriff.
But, Johnny, even if we swing it, he's the president. They'll never give up.
And you don't figure that the guys they're paying off are just going to let you fly away, do you? They'll be after you just like the Secret Service.
I thought of that too, Sheriff. It might be an internationally embarrassing situation if the feds happen to catch up with us first.
So, Bart, you just got to realize that everybody's going to be on your tail from 5 o'clock until the day you die.
There's a hole in your argument, Sheriff.
What is it?
We're already wanted for murder, so you can only take the gas once.
They'll get us, Johnny.
They won't get us, Bart. not us.
You sure, Johnny?
You leave it to me.
Now notice there, he's suggesting the other guy is a patsy too.
You're
They won't
sick,
get
man. You're
us.
sick. I don't like that.
Don't play God just because you've got a gun.
Here it is.
But you see, Sheriff, that's the way it is. When you've got a gun, you are a sort of God. If you had the gun, I'd be the chump and you'd be the God. The gun gives you the power of life and death. It's a funny sort of feeling to have control of life and death. You must have had it during the war. You could miss a man if you had a mind to, or you could kill dead in his tracks. And that made you kind of God. And I liked it. Without the gun, I'm nothing. And I never had anything before I got one. First time I got one on my hands and killed a man, I got some self-respect. I was somebody. Like this kid over here. If that cap pistol was a real gun and I didn't have a gun, he'd be a kind of a god too. And if I wanted my life, I'd worship the ground he walks on. And I'd pay him the $500,000 for my life. Because life is all I have. But the squirt doesn't have the gun. I have. And I can loose the lightning.
Inning, the score is all tied up, 5-5. So we
No noise, just pictures.
Third time this season.
I have the gun. I can loose the lightning. That's what he says.
So
Thor, right? Like Zeus. Right?
Yeah. Here's where he says he's a natural born killer. Let me see.
Series and any 5 officers put together. I did some pretty good chopping in the war. Pretty good.
Like I said before, you're a born killer, that's all.
Yeah. They taught me how, and I liked it. My CO used to stand there and shake like a leaf while I chopped. If more guys like me had
Tell
command...
me one thing, Baron.
Yeah, he calls him a born killer. Yeah.
That was, I mean, that right there is the psychopathy of, the psychos, right? They want to be God. I mean, that's what it all has been, and all the, all the ritual and all of the killing, and by being allied with the death, being, giving their will to the, the death cult. They think they have power because they're working with death, but in fact they're just I don't know, like being part of death. Like I don't know, like it's psychopathy, right? I mean, it's total the opposite of love for humanity, and that's psycho. We would think that is psycho. It's obvious, like we would see that and be like, that's crazy, right?
it's true. And if it's not clear to your listeners too, I think part of the function of this kind of media, which is now so commonplace and doing this and spreading this cult of psychopathology and deification of the psycho killer and violence. Thing is, I think best encapsulated by that Joker figure. But I think part of it is the proliferation of it in media is to create this kind of alibi, so that when you have, as Dave McGowan pointed out, political assassinations, ritual murders, hits, and things like that, if there's a need to then cover them up as a product of the toxic culture, which they themselves right, have created, it functions as an alibi. And what I show in my investigation of this is how this, in particular, this movie, its alleged influence on Oswald, which for some reason the Warren Commission is trying to push. You can listen. The testimony is very interesting because they're asking Marine at first, like, what was he watching the night of, like, before the assassination, or why they're even asking about television is weird at all, right?
Exactly.
And then she starts like telling, World War II stuff, blah blah. And then they're like, they weirdly switch the subject to like something he watched a month before. And then when you know that the reason they're talking about that is because of a Secret Service report about this, you know they're trying to twist the conversation suddenly into this conversation to get this on the record. You know, yeah, and then once you know that the Warren Commission was a bag of like, and what they're up
flaming dog do.
Okay, and then there's just two, and if we have time, I mean, I would like to look at Priscilla and McMillan and the other people that have sort of blown up the theory that Oswald watched this, because it's all like intel connected type of stuff, but it's part of this it's part of this psyop, right, around sort of seeding this stuff in the culture, because like, it's not the question of like, does the culture create this stuff, or is it just sort of imitating it or doing it? It's a combination of both. So it's that the sort of profile it's creating, like maybe it exists before the Phoenix program and Vietnam and all that sort of stuff, but it doesn't exist on that scale. So they're trying to spread it, and then they're popularizing it at an even larger scale to make people think it exists at a wider scale than it does. At the same time, they're trying to spread the actual existence of it. I mean, in a nutshell,
Right.
that's this part of this weird twisted feedback loop with media spectacular violence that starts to ramp up, I think, as early as suddenly. This may be like one of the proto examples of it. Targets, we talked about, but that's like 68, right? And then you get into stuff like Taxi Driver and a whole bunch of other things. Conspiracy theory is part of that Joker cycle, I think, in a lot of ways too, and several other important movies.
But then, of course, the shift we have is the killer, that show like Dexter or whatever, and even the movie Lucy, for example, she gets superpowers. She just starts killing mercilessly, right? Just killing. So these kind of psychopathologies not only move from the fringe to being shown as this is your heroic potential is being a psychopathic killer, right? There's many, I mean, Wolf of Wall Street, et cetera, right? But it's a shift of pushing this archetype through the through the cultural grindstone, and you create this whole network of associations that creates sort of the background understanding of the world in most people's minds, and they don't even know their worldview is coming from the media. But this literally programs the mind preconsciously. Okay, I should have kept going. No,
Excellent comment, Hans. That was great.
I'm trying not to talk.
Do you guys want to do some comments? I mean, or do you want to go to Brett's people talking about the Warren Commission?
Maybe have Brett just whatever his
let's get his notes
let's
so
let
that we
him
don't
talk.
miss the notes. We want to get those in the time.
Yeah, we don't want to talk over Brett.
Oh no, you guys are good. Just enjoying all your reflections. Yeah. Well, I mean, go to Priscilla. I don't know if you can get it up on the screen. Priscilla Johnson McMillan, her Wikipedia.
Okay, I got it.
It's fascinating to take a look at.
He sent the link in the private chat for her wiki.
Hopefully I can see it on this screen too with you. Yeah. So I think it's pretty eye-opening, just the main summary up there. Look toward the bottom. Johnson was the only individual who, to a significant extent, personally knew both President Kennedy and Lee Oswald. And this is also one of the people who's primarily pushing the Lee Harvey Oswald watch suddenly a month before, who says she knew. So anyway, I mean, it's just going to become very obvious. This person's intelligence. So if you want to this is like a master key. If you want to read a Wikipedia page and see whose intelligence, watch this. This is what you do. It's everything here is intelligence. So you go through here.
Should we read it for the listeners that can't see it?
Yeah, go through the early life and the whole thing. I mean, it's there's it's very valuable to me to do that. I mean, but this is someone whose career is CIA. So United World Federalist. So she claimed she tried to get into the CIA, but they wouldn't let me because I was in the United World Federalist. Well, the United World Federalist movement. So that's a movement. I was advocating for world government in the 50s and beyond, on the basis of the nuclear issue, that we have to basically, like, the earth stood still. Like, that's kind of like, that's the, okay, well, who was the first president? Was Cord Meyer. Cord Meyer was a CIA official who ran the Mockingbird operation. She's in the Mockingbird operation, right? And like, look at her first job. It even mentions in the master summary that she worked for North American Newspaper Alliance. Go to the Wikipedia on on that. That was run by Ernest Cuneo, because of Cuneo's association with former members of American British intelligence, including Fleming and Bryce. That's Fleming of James Bond. And because some writers in the Cuneo era had alleged links with CIA, critics have alleged that Nana was under it's everything her. Anyway, we don't have to go through all of it if it's boring to your listeners, but go through everything. She is CIA, right? So, and then Congress decided, guess what? She's CIA when they investigated her in the 70s, that she was reviewing literary publications for the CIA. She just happened to interview Oswald, who I believe was ONI, when he was in Russia. She just happened to be there because she's intelligence, right? Posing as a journalist. She interviews Oswald for like, whatever, 3.5 hours or something. And then she happens to be an aide for Kennedy when he's like, these are not coincidences. And then you happen to be the CIA, right? It's a small world when you're in the clandestine world. And so she's pushing this, the theory that he watched the movie. And Bugliosi, who I think well-informed people agree is a deep state PSYOP asset, among other things, is picking up on this. And it's out of the Warren Commission, which in this weird, just read the testimony if you want, like just the way they steer the conversation to something he watched a month before the assassination, which wasn't even playing. Very strange. So these are the things that I ran into, in a lot of ways more interesting than even the very interesting Manchurian Candidate connections to this. But like Manchurian Candidate, I mean, this is a movie that's basically coming from the left. It's not as far left as the Manchurian Candidate is in terms of the exoteric political messaging. But people, I alluded to this, but Frank Sinatra, despite his mob associations or whatever that has to do with it, he was way far to the left. He had associations with a lot of hardcore communists in Hollywood. He had been investigated by the FBI for being a communist. He was denied a security clearance to perform in Korea during the Korean War because of his communist associations, and then sort of went anti-communist publicly, but maintained. So it's this goes into a very complicated territory where the globalists, basically people like Cord Meyer, for example, in the CIA, were not on the same page as the FBI. I mean, the FBI was investigating all of these communists who were involved in the Manhattan Project, and then military intelligence had to step in and say, "Oh, leave our communists alone. They're deeper than you." This is part of what was. And so Sterling Hayden, somebody mentioned Sterling Hayden. Yeah, he was a real command. He was like a undercover commando in OSS, worked directly under Bill Donovan, while Bill Donovan or if not directly, very, in his office in World War II. And then Hayden immediately becomes a member of the Communist Party. What I submit is that those aren't coincidences. His communist work is coming. And then what is Sterling Hayden doing? He's in Hollywood trying to coordinate all the unions, essentially. He's trying to coordinate all the unions together, which is a communist tactic. And then leaves the Communist Party at some point, which had become irrelevant, I think, as a tool of the banking elite on the left after the late 40s, certainly, or mid 40s, really almost, after Henry Wallace's failed campaign, and then these people move on and doing something else. So I just don't think it's properly understood what these communists in Hollywood were. It's more about globalism than communism. They were tools of the globalist left and the financial banking elites and their influence. That's what I think is going on with people like Hayden. But they're on the same page as Sinatra. And I think ideology, certainly in the case of Manchurian Candidate and who's making that, there's actually these that's part of the paradox, though. These are kind of pro-Kennedy people making these movies that seem to predictively program the Kennedy assassination. God, and there's a lot of weird elements to this. Sinatra supposedly, the day he was filming Robin and the Seven Hoods the day before the assassination, and he took a break from filming. He was in a cemetery, and he sat by a gravestone that said John F. Kennedy, who had died 62 years before then. I looked this up, by the way, just to check. There is the John F. Kennedy in the cemetery he's talking about. So I don't think that John F. Kennedy Jr. made this story up. I think it's true. And it was like then, but that's getting into sort of synchro mystical territory with it. But it's just too weird that too many movies like this are so entangled with Sinatra, JFK, assassination of president. So what does it all mean, Hans?
One thing, everyone bashes the McCarthy hearings, but I mean, there's massive, massive communist infiltration in Hollywood all throughout, various sectors of the United States. Of course, we have Fabian socialists like H.G. Wells, Aldous Huxley, etc. And so the communist thing, it's quite interesting because in a certain way, you have these elitists who are, they even in England, you've got your Cambridge Circle, whatever. These are wealthy people living on estates or manors, and they're talking about let's help the common people. Well, they're not, what I mean? These are the whatever reason it generated all this interest. But I mean, communism, from the very beginning is an occultic ideology, and it comes from Moses Hessa. It's actually sort of a Kabbalistic inversion. If you really read Das Kapital, if you can, stand having your brain being fried in a frying pan, dude. But it really doesn't make any sense. Okay, and it's one of those books they figure no one's going to read it. But I mean, of course, there's tremendous amount of erudition on the communist left side, and a lot of it seems to make sense, but the fundamental infiltration, I think, is that it's both sides. It's sort of a pincer movement, but it is, this is what Bakunin said. Basically, when you have this, he was an anarchist, top anarchist, and he kind of came out against this whole Marx's input in the International. And it said basically the banks and the elite is going to control everything. And that's exactly what communism is, right? So communism, fascism, I mean, certainly they're just two pincers of the same movement, but it is fascinating. Like Frank Sinatra, it seems like a pretty right wing guy, right? He's an asshole. He's a mafia guy. He's an egoist. Honestly, he's not that good of a singer. He looks pretty mousy. He's not some guy you're going to say like, wow, this guy is a star. It's like, hey, hey boy, get me another beer. He doesn't come across as having that star power, but it also became very fashionable. So the left was very fashionable. It was very chic to be part of it. And so there's, all this agents, but the level of infiltration was just stunning, across the board. And of course, the Rockefeller Foundation, Ford Foundation, Frankfurt School, et cetera, et cetera. But,
Frank Sinatra was probably trying to ingratiate himself with politics because of his mob ties. You know what I mean? Like the mob wanted the president in their pocket, right? And he's like, if he is mob, then he's in Hollywood to collect, to do networking and to get blackmail and to, do business with, you know what I'm saying? So like, no wonder he's, he could be right wing in real life or like some, but at work he's trying to win the ears of all the politics and that type of thing. When Kennedy didn't show up at his party, he went out and he smashed the helipad, and that the whole idea of like he was losing his connection to the president, so that, you know what I'm saying? It's like that's what angered him, was because he no longer had that power. Like, to have those connections gives you power in the mob, you know. Anyway.
You mentioned Das Kapital, Hans. Like Boris Yeltsin used to joke what he would do to his fellow people in Russia is make up fake quotes in Das Kapital to like win his points, because he knew the other people didn't read them. So he made him sound like he had the gravitas to actually read it, but he would make it up. And then they'd just be like, oh, yes, sir, no problem. And they move on. Like, that's how much of a joke the book is. It's impenetrable. But people hold it up like a fake Bible or something like that. But yeah, if you remember, I did an article. I think I actually sent it to Brett, but it was about Sinatra's kind of background before Manchurian Candidate. But he was a essential component of Kennedy's 1960 campaign and actually organized his gala. You know, when they won, he was the one who kind of assembled everybody together, and got all
Along
the
with Peter
celebrities.
Lawford, yeah.
Lawford,
Yeah, along with Lawford, right.
Very close, very close.
And then as Sean said, yeah, they had the falling out. He and Lawford had the falling out over the helipad and the JFK visits. I mean, the story is that RFK wanted Kennedy to distance himself from the mob, and Sinatra's association with the mob was, you know, practically an open secret. And so he canceled a kind of, you know, public weekend with Frank, you know, out of, and I guess something Lawford figured into that somewhere. Maybe he went to Lawford's instead. And so Frank kicked Lawford out of the Rat Pack, and he broke up the helipad. And it's all very sordid. I mean, it goes deeper. I mean, it goes into the stuff with Marilyn Monroe, but it's all a really sad, sordid sort of crowd, really.
Poor Marilyn. Oh, wow.
Yeah, very sordid. This girl, by the way, this woman, when they released the FBI files, I think it was under Luna or whatever, she was getting paid from a government like CIA, like front, like literally, like her intel credentials are unimpeachable. Like, it's just incredible. And that book is a joke. You can just see it. Like, look at how like they like log roll for each other. New York Times Book Review and Time Magazine.
And her, oh yeah, so Macmillan, and her last book was actually some book, you know, vindicating Oppenheimer, and that's a big cause célèbre of the Anglo-American globalist crowd. The Council on Foreign Relations was Oppenheimer, you know, like that Nolan movie on Oppenheimer, which just follows the script. But you know, you mentioned McCarthy, and it's right there in Carroll Quigley's Tragedy and Hope. Like, he describes what McCarthy and these people that he hates on the right of the time were onto was not so much a real communist menace within the government, but the Anglo-American, you know, whatever Eastern establishment clique that indeed collaborated widely with communists as well as any group. This Quigley makes very clear about this, and they operate exactly like the sort of McCarthyites thought that the quote communists are operating. That's what McCarthy was onto, and just apparently didn't know it or wasn't supposed to know it, or whatever, because Hiss and those sort of people who were collaborating with the communists, they were just globalists, right? They were just like CFR sort of stooges. Like, I don't think they were Stalinists or anything like that. So it's weird, like that was, but that's part of the milieu that the gaslighters, the JFK gaslighters, a lot of them come from that, and some of them come from other parts of the elites. But I mean, interesting that because what is it? Oglesby has that theory, right? Ken Oglesby's, you sort of Yankee Cowboys theory that it was the sort of Cowboys that knocked off Kennedy. I think rather you have Kennedy was an institutional threat to the cryptocracy in a lot of ways, and they had all decided. Now maybe there's a falling out around. Maybe Oglesby's right that you have a kind of falling out between these people over Watergate or some kind of quote revenge, but I think they're really on the same page at this point over getting rid of Kennedy. And yeah, they admire. You throw a stone, right? You hit one of these people. We've already mentioned Cord Meyer and the World Federalists and these globalist institutions. And people don't want to know, like, what's the proof that there's like globalists in the CIA? Just look at Cord Meyer. I mean, my goodness gracious, like that is like an arch globalist who's also a extremely powerful figure, like running the whole media operation. And then his wife is a mistress of JFK, supposedly giving him acid, according to Timothy Leary. And there's gosh knows what else is going on in these circles. So I don't know. I mean, suddenly I presented this I had a lot of information, but I presented as a research report because I don't have any final answer. I do think that there is some psyop here about creating this profile and having alibis for these political assassinations that seem to be waiting in the wings potentially, and then showing it to us and stuff like Manchurian Candidate, these mind-controlled killers, and how they're going to do it in front of us. And yeah, whatever Masonic, because there's so much Masonic stuff, like in Johnny Cool, certainly. I think it's suddenly as well. And there is something to be said about right there showing you the stuff they're going to do in some garbled form as a sort of ritual and exercise of power. I definitely think there's something to that. And it's just uncanny, the level of predictive programming, so to speak, actually around. When you think of these figures, like some people that knew Kennedy and, Frankenheimer knows him, right? Who makes Manchurian Candidate and is the guy who drives RFK to the event where he's going to get assassinated, just happens to be the director where he's spending he was at his house. That's where he was spending his time before actually being brought there. It was over at Frankenheimer's house. Sinatra is a big JFK booster. So yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned secret societies. This is a fake town. Why did they start off with this? Like gold discovered here, 1842, and then all these kind of like, extracurricular groups, Kiwanis, American Legion. I don't even know what that is on the far left. 2030. Some kind of timekeeping thing.
Predictive programming for 2030. Agenda 2030. It's right here. Oh my God.
All the way back.
So if you read Fritz Springmeier, he'll tell you that an hourglass is used in programming. It reminds the victim that their time could be up suddenly.
Interesting.
2032, is our time going to be?
What does it say underneath? There's something hall, I guess. American Legion Hall, and then on the left, American something hall. I don't even know what that is. I've never heard of the 2030 Club, but they chose to start everything off this before they announced the title.
One more thing. If you look at the sigil, the way that it's built is like a Goetic sigil. Like, look at how it's got the circle on the outside with those. Like, are those Jewish letters? Like, what are those? That's the same stuff as you find in like a Damien Eccles tattoo, where it's like got the circle around the outside with like the thing in the middle, which like has the name of the demon, whatever. Look at how that's built. That probably is not a real thing. That's probably created by the people who know what to look for, those with eyes to see. That's probably some put in there on purpose. I don't know, maybe it's real, but that looks like a magic sigil.
I don't know. This is called a sand timer, an active 2030 club.
Wow, it's
real. Official emblem historically features an hourglass.
Wow, it's real. Holy crap.
The club is a service organization that for individuals aged 20 to 39 dedicated to leadership development and improving the lives of underserved children.
Yeah, selling them on the black market, I'm sure.
Right. I mean, that's where it starts. That's where they find the victims, man.
Yeah.
Dude, there's like pictures of Trump with a guy who was like literally ran all these like homes for juveniles, and it's in the files.
Wow.
Yeah, his name is
like Boys Town, right?
Yeah, but there were ones in California. And like, what is this kind of kind of
Oprah had a
creepy
kids school too in Africa there.
Yeah, what is this creepy? He had a fake name. He was like a new ager. His real name was like Bobby Rodriguez, but he went by Gypsy Gita, and you can see it in the files.
Gypsy.
Yeah,
I'm sorry for laughing so hard.
Yeah.
That's silly, dude. That's silly.
Gypsy Gita.
And he's, I mean, it's actually.
I'm gonna give my money to that guy. He seems legit. Gypsy Gita.
He's passed away.
Sounds like
already.
a male stripper, you know. Go see your bachelorette parties.
But like it's like one of the most sus things you could ever imagine. Because what is Trump doing? This kind of like, billionaire from New York doing with this kind of sleazebag young child, home operator in California. It's very strange. Anything else you'd like to add, Brett? We are almost at the 90-minute mark. We're at 1 hour, 20 minutes. Anybody have any questions? There's about 250 people in the chat. Let's see. Johnny asks, any other celebrity for greater Zelig type adjacency to deep state Hollywood politics than Sinatra? There's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, Johnny Depp, you could talk about. I mean, there's people who've been around a long time who've just been in the sketchiest freaking movies. Actually, Sterling Hayden is one of them, in my opinion. Like, he pops up here, pops up in Strangelove. He was actually a war hero in the Adriatic. He had his own boat, much like Kennedy had his kind of own boat. But like
in Dr. Strangelove, he was the crazy psychopath war guy who goes crazy, has the biggest gun. Right?
Starts World War III.
Starts talking about fluoride. Fluoride is that's like, so they take the fluoride conspiracy and they put it in the film as this psycho guy is saying that there's a fluoride conspiracy. I thought that was interesting,
Yeah, Jack Stryker, what was his name?
Oh, it was Jack Ripper. Jack the Ripper.
Jack Ripper, that's right. Bartow asked, why would the town be named Suddenly? Why do you think they were trying to tell or sell with this movie? Anybody want to answer that?
It's not a clear answer with the movie, unless maybe it is some kind of triggering device.
Right. They open with somebody's traveling through town. They're getting gas, and they're like, suddenly, oh, that's a weird name. And they're like, yep, blah, blah, blah. And it's how it starts. The whole movie is how it starts on that, and how it's an odd that they would name it, So anyway, I don't know what we would say, but that is a good guess that it's some kind of trigger, because if there are Manchurian candidates out there watching movies, then maybe they have that triggering whenever they see the Lions Club with the hourglass and you know what I mean? Maybe then, because I don't know. I'm not going to go on, but maybe it is a trigger for the MK ilk, because like what Brett said on his show with Carrie on the PSYOP Cinema, they put the triggers in the Hollywood movies to influence the actual victims of the SRA, the scientific military mind control that are little kids out there watching movies. So this might have been constructed for that. Like it might be both. It might be a PSYOP, and it might actually be a trigger device for sleepers. Yeah, I have a way of killing the conversation.
Well, I would just say no. I would just say, yeah. I mean, for more of the gory details of my analysis of this, check out the Patreon page for PSYOP Cinema, and then on the main feed we have hundreds of episodes analyzing psychological warfare and cinema. It worked, of course, a lot with everybody present here, so I presume some of the audience already knows that, but. That's about all I have to say at this point, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys again too. And again, just if I could, just another plug for Cultural Engineering Studies, the research anthology. Hans's work we're featuring, Jason Horsley, Jamie Hanshaw, Collins Brothers, A lot of great writers, a lot of great articles. So please support us if you can.
But yeah, and I will sign copies, buy it, and I will sign it for a small fee. No, yeah, thanks, Brent. It is a really it's a quality publication, and it's it's about time that the tentacles of the deep state, the octopus, the Ouroboros, cultural Ouroboros, is a little bit extracted from our cultural, institutions, which are really important. When these start to break down, society breaks down, and other people recognize the importance of institutions. But anyways, yeah, my podcast, The Resident State, I'm going to be posting a bunch more content starting tomorrow. So yeah, I'm going to start re-resonating here. But thank you everybody for listening, and we'll just continue this journey, tearing down Babylon one brick at a time, with Trump the Antichrist, with Baphomet behind him. You can't make it up, right? But here we are. Jesus picture of Trump, man. They've got there's literally a demon behind him. So this is talk about revelation of the method. That's right.
Did you see his Panikin post where he's making the sign of silence? Like, shut up. See that one? Oh. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, it's incredible.
That's the Harpocrates there with the one finger. Yeah, that shows that he's part of the group and he's not going to tell. He won't tell either. It might be.
He's fulfilling their work, man.
Right.
Golden age.
Tearing down the tower. So there was a question: how long was this movie before Dr. Strangelove? And this movie was 54. Strangelove was 64. So 10 years. And here, this one. Oh no, wait, the next one after that. Yeah, this one, the Nicholson in The Shining, breaking down the fourth wall, as Johnny says. In The Shining, Jack Nicholson looks in the camera, and Kubrick keeps it. It's one of the. It's it's not on the cutting room floor. Kubrick uses that. When he's in the interview at the beginning of the film with the boss, he keeps looking at the camera by accident. He keeps like glancing over at the camera, and it creates a weird tension. It's interesting. So like, not only did he chop down the wall, he also did look in the camera in that film. Wake the Dead. Everybody can find me at Wake the Dead on all the podcasters, and I'm on YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey, and I just got a PO box for people. If you choose to donate, which was much appreciated, or if you choose to send me media or letters or anything, you can send it to Wake the Dead, PO Box 93 at Oberlin, Ohio 44074. And I would be happy to connect with people through that way, because PayPal and Bitcoin, and buy me a coffee, some people don't want to participate in those things. So good old fashioned mailbox is always there, and I'm happy to have that for my show now. So please do connect some, send me something. So thanks.
Yeah, there's the Trumper doing his work. Yeah, William Ramsey Investigates. Thanks everybody for listening, and go check out. I'll put links to PSYOP Cinema Patreon, Decoding Culture with the Cultural Engineering Studies volume. That's a subset of the main website. So the main website, I think it's just Decoding Culture Foundation. And you can see their other research, interviews, databases, things like that. So check that out. And then again, it's the Wake the Dead, Resonant State, and PSYOP Cinema. And this was Manchurian Candidate episode 18. So you can go back and listen to the other 17 episodes. They all can overlap.
Also, real quick, I don't know if it's real or not, but I saw today that Trump shared on his truthed on his social media a clip of Frank Sinatra singing "I Did It My Way." Like it was a big old long clip of Frank Sinatra, old and singing into the microphone, basically just talking, not even singing. But that's Trump unapologetically saying, "Yeah, I'm tearing down the tower and I'm destroying America. I did it my way." Right? It's funny that it relates. It's right here, Frank Sinatra.
I mean, increasingly, it does look like these are, basically either deliberately doing this or they're just game theory cut out, people that exactly how they're going to act. But they're looks like, it just heads up everybody, great reset, COVID type stuff, maybe coming to a town near you in the next 3 to 6 months. It's already starting up, food rationing, fuel rationing, and other countries. And as distinct from COVID, COVID was a informational thing, right? I mean, you pick kids, but this is kinetic, right? If there's no food, you got droughts, so this could be pretty serious. I hope not. I'm enjoying the spring, but it looks like he's hell bent just to destroy the entire global economic system for a long time. If someone doesn't put this guy in his monkey cage, back in his monkey cage,
or a rubber room with a straitjacket. I mean, I think that's the consequences are going to be incredible. Maybe not for the U.S., but he doesn't seem to care about the global implications. This is, I wish I could find the old clip because it was at some convention of like the Satanic Church where they literally sung "My Way," like the literal head, I think it was like Grimstead or something. I can't remember his name, but they were all there in robes in L.A. And it's not on the web anymore, but they were singing "My Way" all together. It is a satanic song, but this is at the White House. This is before the war started, I think.
Without exemption, I gladly shall enforce each every step along my way, and more, much more than this, I did my way, for I is a man,
It's ironic because they're order followers. They don't do anything their way. They only do their orders. Just like Trump, he takes orders.
It has kind of like the end of Full Metal Jacket feel to it. Like it's almost kind of like a joke. This is the back of Melania's head. I'm pretty sure this is at the table. And I'm pretty sure that's Melania right there.
Oh, right.
At the main head table. So like it is, I don't know if Trump is down there, but you can see this on RT.
I think it's smart that you picked out that this is a satanic song because really the Satanism is like the self as God, right? So to do it my way is to have your will over everything. That's what the magician wants. It's funny that this song.
Well, actually, like he did the song "Witchcraft," which also has connected with sort of occult themes, and "Satan Takes a Holiday." That's another one of Frank Sinatra's songs, and then "Walk on the Wild Side," "Walk with the Devil." So he has a few songs like that, along his career, and I don't know if he was, like his buddy there, going to the Church of Satan, hanging out with Anton LaVey, but painting his fingernail black, the Rat Pack. But who knows? But certainly, yeah, My Way is connected with Satanism. But he has some other songs, and I've seen allusions to these songs being used in a ritual thing or being used to frighten people or summon things, stuff like that. But that's as far as I know. So.
Another song that he did was used in the second Joker movie, the Joker was like he was in jail and he was singing about that's life. You're on top when in May, and then you're at the bottom in June and whatever. And it's and that was like depicting the character of the Joker was like he was on top of the world when he was killing everybody, and now he's like stuck in jail. And it's pretty interesting how I don't know.
I'm trying to find that Sinatra clip. I'm pretty sure I saw it posted. It's just so weird. I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah, I can find it.
I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, it's all over it's all over X right now. If you look on X, everybody's sharing it.
It's interesting. I'm going to post the lyrics to Satan Takes a Holiday. You can be the judge if that. And I just put it in the chat if maybe it was interesting. Anyways, I don't know. But,
because it's not on. It's a repost from Truth Social, so you can't really find it. But maybe it's a good way to finish off the show. Final curtain. All right, I found it. Let's put it up. Video. See. And
the end is near.
The end is near.
The final curtain.
Bro, it's 418. The number, the Kabbalistic number for global illumination.
My friend, I'll make it clear.
Wasn't that a 9/11 number?
I'll state my case,
Early,
on which I
sure.
am certain.
Right.
I've lived a life that's full, traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this. I did it my way. Regrets, I had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do. I saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step.
watch your tuning there. He's going out of tune, bro. That's okay.
And more, much more than this. I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I guess you knew, when I bit off much more than I could chew. But with it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up, then spit it out. I grew tall in spite of it all, and did it my way. I've laughed and cried. I had my fill, my share of losing. And now as tears subside,
He certainly didn't take any flack from pit bosses in Vegas.
To think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy. No, 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 no.
Get the auto tune, Frank. Come on.
For what is a man?
They pay him
What has
anyway.
he got?
He doesn't care.
If not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blows and did it
Somebody needs to like edit
That
this
should be the
music.
national. That should be the national anthem now.
Right. Yeah.
I'm
Either
gonna
that or-
edit it with all the blow-ups and all the dead people in Gaza and Iran
Yes,
and all of his
you
crazy
should.
deranged tweets.
That's a
Praise
perfect
Allah,
meme.
you know, or
Yeah,
whatever
that's
he wrote on
perfect.
Easter. Holy smokes!
But by the way, 934 is also a occult meaning of transition between realms.
Oh,
It's
wow.
crazy.
So transitioning between realms, so yeah.
This is the occult layman that's on the cover of Star in the West, which Fuller wrote about Crowley. And you see all these VVV, the 5 Vs, which
Right.
is mentioned in V for Vendetta, but
Right.
also AO, Alpha Omega, and then the 666 418. So 418 is that Kabbalistic number I mentioned.
Right. And that was yesterday, and today is 419. So happy Bicycle Day, everybody! And then tomorrow is Hitler's birthday, right? 420, and yeah.
Sean, every day is 420 for you, bro.
Well, that's for damn sure.
Right.
You know that, my
doesn't
friend.
that come full circle in our talk? Is that Columbine happened on 420, didn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
right. You're right. In the season of sacrifice, 420 is like the peak of that 40-day period between 322 and Beltane of Walpurgisnacht. It's a 40-day period, just like Lent, but for the Satanists, they do the sacrifices in that time to power from Beltane, and that whole season of light and summer, it will be fueled by all the blood that they soak into the ground, for the dark occult sacrifice.
Anything you like to add, Brett?
Ain't that a
Anybody
nice
wanna
way to end
the
it?
book ended? I think the My Way thing is good. Like, it's a great ending. Like with Sinatra. Anybody else want to add anything?
Yeah.
Check out again, My Wake the Dead, Resonant State, Brett Carollo, Psyop Cinema, all great stuff. A lot different than on my channel, so go check it all out. I'll put links to the websites and podcasts in the show notes. Anybody else before I wrap up? Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being there, and thanks for listening.
All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it.